Cool, excellent. Well, thanks everybody for coming. As I said, my name is Max Pike. I'm with the Midwest Renewable Energy Association, and I'm here to tell you about the Solar Urbana-Champaign program. I am going to move a little bit just because that projector light's right in my face. Cool. Excellent. So the Solar Urbana-Champaign program is a program designed to make solar available to more people in the community. It's a competitive group buy program, and I'll talk to you a little bit about how the program came to be, a little bit about solar technology, the solar market, and then we'll finally get into how the program works, what the prices are, and why it's such an attractive opportunity. There's 5 key components of the program. The first one was a competitive contractor selection process. So the City of Urbana worked with MREA and some Grow Solar partners in order to issue a competitive bid. And the purpose of that was to get the best installer for the best price. We didn't just pull an installer off the street. We tried to really pool the options and select the best one, and we feel like we really got the best one as well. We've got a lot of people on the ground promoting the program. We're doing a lot of events like this, the Solar Power Hours, and so we've got people talking on the streets, door to door. We've got posters out, radio spots, YouTube, some TV, all sorts of things. And so that outreach program is one of the other key components of the Solar Urbana-Champaign program. It's a limited time offering, so we've got a ticking clock, and the purpose of that is to call people to action. If we don't have an end to it and it's just a competitive group buy, it doesn't work for several reasons, but one of the main ones is that the can will get kicked down the road by a lot of people. People are sitting on the fence as it is, and so by adding an end date where it's, use it or lose it, kind of sign up now or miss the opportunity, we really encourage that call to action and get the most sign-ups in the shortest amount of time. We do really strong customer education at these power hours. So I've been doing these since the beginning of December, all over the community, in Champaign, Urbana, and some of the surrounding smaller towns. And so we pack in a lot of information into an hour, and there's a couple benefits to that. One, it saves you time on research. If you're not very familiar with solar, you're able to learn more about solar in a small amount of time than if you went out and were Googling and doing things on your own. And then we also drive down the soft costs for our installer. So the MREA and the Grow Solar partnership, we issued that competitive bid, and we've selected our installer. Now they don't have to spend the time sort of educating their clients, qualifying their clients quite as much, and doing as much marketing, and that cost savings trickles down through the group buy program. And then finally, probably the last, arguably the most important key component of the program is the economy of scale you get by combining the purchasing power of everybody in Champaign County, the residents, business owners, nonprofits, and that economy of scale is what allows us to drive down the price the most. MREA is a nonprofit organization. We were founded in 1990 by a group of people that read a magazine article called Home Power, or the magazine was called Home Power, and the article was a call to action to promote sustainability. So that group of people got together, founded the MREA, and they hosted the first annual Renewable Energy and Sustainability Fair up in Custer, Wisconsin. We're based up in Wisconsin. I live here in Urbana, but that's MREA was one of the key founding member to get the program going, and we still host that fair every year. That's the third Saturday in June. It's a really cool fair. It's not just energy. MREA specializes in renewable energy. We do educational courses online and in person in solar PV, solar thermal, and small wind. But the fair is a lot more than that. It's farmers, artisan bakers, and craftspeople. It's a multi-day fair. A lot of people go up in the summer and camp and make a long weekend of it. It's a really cool event. So we have several other partners involved in the program. We're funded by a Department of Energy grant, a Sunshot grant. And is it possible to maybe get the lights off up here just so you guys can see a little bit better? Yeah. Perfect. Excellent. So we're funded by a Sunshot grant from the U.S. Department of Energy. And then our other partners are IGEN, the Illinois Green Economy Network, the City of Urbana, the Environmental Law and Policy Center up in Chicago. And then we have our installation partners. Straight Up Solar is the selected installer. Shannon's with Straight Up Solar, and she'll talk to you very shortly. And then they're Also joined by New Prairie Construction, a local sort of pillar construction company. They've been around in the community for quite a while. And they're also working with Wilcox Electric out of Bloomington. And we've brought in those other partners because the volume of the program is more than just one organization could handle as far as installation goes. I want to thank you guys and thank MSDE for giving me the opportunity to speak today as well. And thank you guys for coming out and spending your lunch hour with me. I'm going to hand it over to Shannon real quick. She's going to introduce and tell you a little bit more about Straight Up Solar and then give you an update on how the program's going.
Great. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for having us. So Straight Up Solar is a company, we've been doing solar strictly since 2006. Our company is based in St. Louis, and for a company to be doing solar for 10 years in this area, that's an old solar company. There aren't a lot of companies that have been doing this even for the past few years. So we have installed over 600 projects, solar projects, ranging solar electric, solar PV, ranging from small residential to large commercial. And our largest of which is 550 kilowatts we're working on at a nursery in the Metro East area. So we have a lot of experience, and as Max mentioned, that was one of the criteria. It wasn't just lowest cost. It was lowest cost and experience, so that the community could rest assured that whatever company is going to be building their solar system has experience and good craftsmanship. So we definitely have that. The majority of our growth happened in the St. Louis area. Ameren, Missouri had a really strong rebate for about 3 years. And so most of our installations took place there. About a year and a half, I opened an office for this company in Bloomington, which is where I'm from. So we have more of a local presence for sure. And as Max mentioned, we've engaged with both New Prairie Construction and Wilcox Electric from the area as well, knowing that although we're a completely vertically integrated company. We have, we do all of our procurement, design, and installation with in-house people. But we knew with the volume of this program, we would need help with the volume and the short period of time in which we need to have these systems built. So we brought in a couple of local partners, and then they've been great to work with. Our company is about 21 people. It's a little bit down by a couple of people. We have one installation team, 2 electricians, so every bit of the work can be done by our company. We are NABCEP certified. NABCEP certification is the solar gold standard certification in the country. So if any of you are interested in going into the solar field, that's the certification that you might want to, look into, so they have this certification for not only installers but also sales individuals. So look for that. If you decide to go into the program and you want another estimate, whatever you do, ask from any other company proof of that NABCEP certification is really important. And so we have several NABCEP certified people in the company. One thing I wanted to point out that makes this kind of program possible, this kind of bulk purchase program, is the fact that we're part of a consortium of small businesses that come together in this organization known as Amicus to be able to leverage our small business buying power together in order to buy components in bulk and at a lower price. And so in addition to MREA and the organizations that are funding the administrative piece of this, that allows a company like ours to offer solar at a lower price, but this other consortium that we're a part of also offers an opportunity for us to pass those savings on to consumers as well. So that's another reason why we're well suited for a program like this.
Okay. Before you leave, is that the Better Business Bureau?
Yes, and we're A+ business with the Better Business Bureau.
Oh, okay.
And how many of you have heard of B corporations? So this is a certification. It's a third-party certification that you have to meet certain standards in order to qualify, and it's essentially a certification. It's what fair trade is to coffee, right? It's a certification of a business that perceives and values people and place kind of at the same level as profit. So we're a mission-driven company that strives. Our mission is to build a sustainable world through building these types of communities, solar tribes, people, right? So we're really proud of our B Corporation. We just attained that last year. So if you're interested in knowing what that means as to the type of company you're dealing with, it's worth it to look up B Corp.
Is that Solar Tribe the people who work up there, or is it Solar Tribe us?
It's you. It's everybody. It's not only our company, but primarily this is the tribe. This is our tribe. It's individuals who have gone solar with us, and the entire collective is what we're trying to build, and build this community that whether you go solar or not, it's this tribe of individuals that advocate for solar. Specifically, whether you go solar with us or someone else, or you can't afford to go solar right now, the Solar Tribe, involves everybody who's just an advocate. Yeah, update. So this, like Max mentioned, this program started. I think our first launch was December 2nd, first meeting, first power hour. To date, so there were 3 thresholds, and Max will talk more about this. But when we set up the program, the goal was to sell 100 kilowatts. So to put that in perspective, that's about 20 typical residential size systems, 15 to 20, which is a pretty reasonable goal for the whole county, right? Well, we're now at 150 kilowatts signed already, and we have a couple months left. But when we look at the proposals that are out there to individuals, we're up around 400 kilowatts. So to add some perspective to that, there's only been one other group solar program in the entire state, and that was in the city of Chicago about a year ago. So it included the city of Chicago and a couple of suburbs. Not offered through the same organizations, but it was the same type of program. They only installed 400 kilowatts, and that entire dense population. So Champaign County we're really doing great, and if we can exceed that 400 kilowatts, that would certainly be something. So I'm the president of the Illinois Solar Energy Association. It's a statewide industry association, and the majority of our board, of course, is from Chicago, just based on the population and where most of the installations are. So if I can go back to that board and say, hey, I'm from Central Illinois, and little Champaign County beat the city of Chicago, I would love to be able to get some more attention downstate, which is why I joined the board to begin with. So these are some of the pictures of the installations so far. Jack Paxton, does anybody know Jack?
Yeah.
Former professor at the U of I in plant pathology. He was our first installation.
I think he was in League of Women Voters too.
Could be. Great guy.
He used to talk to us every so often.
Long-time solar advocate.
Yeah, long time.
The lower right-hand corner. This is Bill Volk. We know the Volks.
Oh, the Les people?
Yeah,
Yeah, we know them.
VOLK.
just
Upper
retired.
right, David Chi and Teresa Mock. And this is the Wilcox, David and Ellen Wilcox in the upper left. So we like to say we don't sell solar, we sell the tribal pose, right? So everybody wants to get their tribal pose at the end of the installation. But I fully expect that we'll be able to get to 400 kilowatts. And Max will talk a little bit more about this, but the importance of meeting these different thresholds is that once we hit 100 kilowatts, which we're already past, everybody gets a 1% discount. Once we get to 150, which we're right at the cusp of that, people get a 2% discount. If we meet 250 kilowatts installed, everybody gets a 3% discount. So not only are you starting off with a lower cost per watt, because it's bulk, in the end, you get a rebate check based on the collective participation. So Max will provide a little more detail on that.
Cool. Thanks, Shannon.
Yep.
So how did the program start? Well, essentially the city of Urbana reached out to Grow Solar Partners, many of those organizations that I mentioned earlier, and they reached out for help with technical assistance, mainly planning, permitting, zoning, installing solar on municipal buildings, but they also wanted to do some sort of community program, an outreach program, and that's what evolved into the Solar Urbana-Champaign program. The price that we keep mentioning is one of the lowest we've seen in the region. It includes all the design, permitting, planning, components, interconnection, wiring, everything. It's sort of an out-the-door price, if you will. And it's, as I said, it's a really low price. It's one of the key components of the program. Grow Solar partners, including MREA, the Environmental Law and Policy Center, and others have worked with municipal programs in the past, like the one from Chicago that Shannon mentioned, as well as some in some other states, and they've seen really tremendous success, and so that's what led to the desire to do a program here. Right now, we're taking the first step, really, these power hours, the educational part of it. So this would be the first step for all of you if you wanted to get involved with the program. We do the really strong customer education, again, to drive down the soft costs. We could try to get you to think about, if you're thinking about solar for a location, we try to get you to think about the location and whether it's a good location for solar. Start thinking about the condition of your roof, how much shading you have, what direction the roof faces, and things like that, and start thinking about the next steps that you'll take, and I'll talk a little bit more about that throughout the presentation. Again, by doing this, we save you money by saving the installer money, so that savings trickles down, and that's why we're able to offer the really competitive price. The program's open to anybody in Champaign County, including residents, businesses, nonprofits. You do have to own the building, but if it's a residence, it doesn't have to be your principal residence. It can be a second residence or third, or really whichever one you'd like to do. We have financing available. There's different options depending on where the location is and what type of facility it is, if it's a home or a business. And we have a range of products. There's 3 tiers of products available with the program. One of the tiers does offer an American-made panel, and so that's available as well.
Now, does the American-made panel cost more than the others?
Yeah, it costs more than one of them.
More
So there's
than
3
one?
tiers. It's the middle tier.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I'd pay extra if it's made in America.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more efficient than the base tier.
Really?
And so we'll talk a little bit more about the technical aspects of it very shortly. The MREA, Environmental Law and Policy Center, iGen, Scott Tess, who's the Sustainability Manager for the City of Urbana, and we're all worked with the Urbana Sustainability Advisory Committee to issue that competitive request for proposal that, again, required a NABCEP certified installer with a history of high quality work, and the goal, again, was to get the best quality installer for the best price. As I mentioned, the price per watt is about the lowest that we've seen, or one of the lowest that we've seen in the region. And the beauty of the program, like Shannon mentioned, is that the more people sign up, the lower the price goes. And so we have those tier discounts again, some of which we've already met, the 100 and 150, and then again at 250. So we start with a low price, more people sign up, and we end with a low price, and there's lots of other incentives available that we'll talk about as well. And there's some options available that we're exploring for people that are willing to donate that rebate check towards a worthy cause, usually related to solar, so that we're putting that program together as well. We've had some interest in it. I'm just going to talk really quickly about what's the sort of trend in the solar market or the solar industry. We've seen really tremendous growth over the last 5 years. There's a total installed capacity of about 24 gigawatts of solar, and that's enough to power about 4.8 million homes, so it's quite a bit. We've seen some really explosive growth. There's a new system going in about every 2.5 minutes, and we're seeing the growth in residential, commercial, and utility scale installations. So it's sort of across the range of applications. About 40% of all the new electric generating capacity that came online in 2015 was from solar. As the growth continues, we're seeing the value of solar being recognized in real estate markets because so many people install solar on their buildings. There's been several studies. One national study by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory found that homes with solar sold faster and at a higher value than an equivalent non-solar home. And then there's been a couple of regional studies which really help sort of verify that. One in the Denver area had similar findings, shorter marketing time, higher value, and then a study in the Bay Area in California by Lawrence Berkeley National Lab found that solar typically added about $15,000 to the value of a home for a typical size solar system. And the takeaway from that is not the $15,000. That's based on the cost of solar PV in that region at that time, and it's based on lots of other market values. The takeaway is that people are investing in solar, and if they sell their house, they're getting value back from the investment. So it's not it's being recognized and really adding value to any real estate where you install solar. Before I get into how solar works, I'd like to just get a sense of how many of you would consider yourselves sort of solar novices.
Oh,
Novices, don't know anything about
Someplace
solar,
in
kind of
between.
heard of it, but that's about it. Okay. And any sort of moderate, pretty familiar. If I say price per watt, they kind of know what I'm talking about. Okay. And any experts that want to come up here and help? Come on. All right. So this is a really sort of quick overview of how solar works. If you imagine up here where it says Solar Urbana-Champaign is the sun, and you have a building here, in this case a residence. Actually, no, this would be a commercial building. It looks like, well, maybe it's a residence. It looks commercial to me. The sunlight, the photons from the sun, come down and they strike your solar array. So if you have a roof-mounted system, the solar panels are going to be mounted on the roof. That's called a solar array. It's a collection of panels. In the industry, panels are actually called solar modules. So a solar array is a collection of solar modules. The sunlight comes down and strikes those solar modules, and the electrons in those solar modules become excited, and they flow out of the solar modules as what's called DC electricity, or direct current electricity. Direct current electricity is a type of electricity that is used in small electronics, cell phones, computers, and it can be stored easily in batteries, but it's different from what we use in our homes and businesses. It's different from what powers your TV or your refrigerator or your washing machine. And so in order to use it with all of those things in a business or in a home, we have to convert it from DC to what's called AC, alternating current electricity. So the DC flows out of the panels into an inverter, and then the inverter is what makes that conversion happen. It changes the DC into AC, or alternating current. For the sake of the program, there's available in the program is what's called a central inverter. It's one inverter that manages the whole system, and I'll talk a little bit more about inverters shortly. There's a separate electric meter built into this inverter, and that meter measures the output of your system. It has nothing to do with how much of that production you use. It just measures the production of your system, and that's really important because some of the financial incentives are based on how much energy your system produces. So that meter it's web connected. There's an app, so you can see what your real-time production is. It's pretty cool, and but it's really important for those incentives as well. So it's going to flow through the inverter, and then it'll become available to you for you to use. And then anything that you don't use will go back out through the meter and feed back out to the grid. A little bit finer level of detail. This is your solar module here, a cross section of a solar module. It's made up of 2 layers of silicon. You have the N layer on top and the P layer on bottom. What happens when the sunlight strikes the module? The N layer becomes positively or negatively charged. The P layer becomes positively charged, and the electrons essentially flow from the P layer to the N layer and out to power whatever electrical load you have on the system.
How long do those solar panels last?
So that's a great question. The panels that are available at the base tier are warranted for 25 years. Existing panels that were manufactured a while ago, 70s, 80s, have been in production for about 30, 40 plus years, and they're still working. What happens is silicon naturally degrades over time. So it degrades about 0.5 to 0.75% per year. And that silicon, so the warranty for the 25-year warranty states that your system will be producing in 25 years about 80% of what it's producing now. The general consensus is that they don't want to be out replacing a bunch of panels in 25 years on roofs, so they've sort of short-sold that warranty. They think that you will be producing more than that.
Will it go higher than 25 years?
Yeah, so the essential, that's what I'm saying, is the old technology that was manufactured previously, that's been out there 30, 40 years, when manufacturing wasn't as good and the panels weren't as good, and they're still producing maybe 60% after 40 years. But the life of the panel is still sort of being determined. They're also highly recyclable. There's recycling facilities available now, and they're pretty simple construction. So it's a good low maintenance technology. as I said, there's 3 different types of panels available. They're basically vary in efficiency. So if you have a smaller area available, you might go with a higher efficiency panel, so you can get more energy out of that location. This is a picture of the inverter that's available with the system. As I mentioned, it's a central inverter. It manages the output for your entire array. There's been some really big steps forward in central inverter technology, to the point where there's a very small difference between something like a central inverter and a microinverter technology, where you have an inverter per panel or more inverters on the roof. And the beauty of that advancement is that you now have something that's virtually the same in efficiency, but requires less of it, so you don't have to buy as many, and there's fewer to fail over the life of your system. And then, as I said, it has a meter built into it. The nice thing about this inverter as well is that if your system goes, if the grid goes down and your system shuts down, then it has on a separate circuit, power available up to 1,500 watts. So if on the rare occasion that the power goes out and your system is still producing energy, you still have some power available to you. I'm going to talk a little bit about the different mounting types available. The roof mount is going to be the most common. And it's probably what most of us see when we drive around town and we do see solar panels, with the exception of the big farm out on Windsor. It's a really good option because it gets, that's where a lot of people have unused space, whether it's a home or a business. It does require you to think about several different things. It requires a really good solar window. So a solar window is the amount of sunlight that's available to that spot over the course of a year. And so you want a good solar window. You want plenty of sunlight available to your roof if you're thinking about a roof-mounted system. And you want it available over the course of the year. We do ask you to start thinking about, if you're considering a roof-mounted system, the age of your roof. Are you going to need to replace your roof really soon, or in the next 2 to 3 years? If so, then our installer will probably hold the conversation at that point until you decide whether you're willing to replace your roof beforehand. And the reason for that is it's a little bit ethically questionable for them to install something and then charge you to come back and remove it and then reinstall it again in a couple years. So we do encourage you to think about that. The nice thing about the solar is it does protect your roof, and it will make your roof last longer. You want to think about snow loading and wind loading. If you're on the windward side of a building, you'll get more snow accumulation. That's not necessarily a huge issue. Solar panels are kind of the first place snow starts to melt, but it can add weight. And the other thing is the wind loading. So if you get a lot of snow accumulation or high wind, we require a little bit of different hardware to secure the panels to the roof. So again, something you want to think about. If that south facing for you is a high wind area, it could add a little bit of cost. And there's little adders like that for different things. If you have an overly steep roof, if you have you want to mount solar on multiple roof faces, there's little adders for things like that. The nice thing is that competitive bid process vetted the price for all of those adders as well. The other option is a ground-mounted system, and that's really popular here as well, especially if you have a large area of land, or maybe your roof isn't big enough to produce as much energy as you want, or your roof isn't an ideal location. Again, it requires a really large unshaded area. You want that really good solar window. But it's nice because you're able to clear obstructions and snow pretty easily. Typically, we don't recommend that people go on the roofs to clear off their solar panels, but when they're on the ground mount, it's nice and easy, and they work well here because of the soil type. They're able to mount them directly into the ground rather than having to pour foundations and footings and things like that in most cases. Again, you want to think about how much sunlight is available, where the shading is over the course of the year, and things like that. But the ground mount is very similar in cost as well to the roof mounted system. So a question we used to get a lot was, is there enough sunlight? Can I actually produce that much energy? Am I just going to power TV with an entire roof of solar? And the answer is no. It's a really viable technology, and this map is essentially that answer. It's what's called a solar irradiance map, and it shows the potential to produce electricity per square meter per year across the U.S. And so if you look in the Southwest here, the areas in red are going to be the highest potential production. We think of that as desert, sunny all the time, lots of sunlight hours over the course of the year. Next is yellow, and then the green areas here, and it's a little bit different depending on the projector that I'm using on this particular day, but the green's not as heavy here. Usually this is a little bit more green. So the kind of Michigan and the Northeast, there's a lot more green, and then blue and purple are going to be your lowest production. So we've got a lot of blue up here in the Northwest, and Alaska has a lot of blue and purple. And the reason that we point this out is that if you look at the U.S., it's mostly red, yellow, green. The inset map is a map of Germany. Germany leads the world in solar production. They have a goal of producing 50% of their energy from solar by 2030. If you look at Germany, they're mostly purple. There's a little bit of blue on the edges here, a little bit of green in the very southern part of Germany. But if their map looks like that, and they're leading the world and they want to produce half their energy from solar, then the U.S. most certainly is a good place for solar. It has lots of potential to produce more than enough energy. The issue that it comes down to is your specific location. What does your spot that you want to install solar on look like? Shading and direction that your roof faces and things like that. It comes down to a specific location, but the general takeaway is that the U.S. is a great place for solar. So when we talk about location and siting, roof-mounted systems are, again, the most common and the best way to go for most people. What characteristics we look for in a roof-mounted system? Ideally, it would face due south. Having said that, we can install solar basically anywhere east through south to west, with a very small drop in production if you're facing, say, due east and all of the things are equal. You want that really good solar window available to you. But as far as roof mounts go, if you drive around town, you'll see panels on all different sides of roofs. It's just the north facing that we really don't do because it's not an effective location for producing electricity.
Roofs are going to have different pitches. Mine's fairly low, the lowest I could get.
Mm-hmm.
Then would they have to?
So they may, depending on the pitch, they might angle the panels a little bit.
They can do that too
Mm-hmm.
without.
Right, and if your roof is overly steep, there can be little added costs and things like that because of the installation that's required in the hardware. But yeah, they may angle them up, and Shannon will be able to answer application-specific questions for you
But that
guys.
isn't a problem then.
That's not a problem.
It's not a problem, but we wouldn't likely do that. It wouldn't be financially a good choice for you to have us build frames that angled up. The cost of solar has dropped so much that it's best to just add another panel. Okay, to make up for the less than optimal.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the types of interconnection we have. We're going to focus on the utility tied, the grid tied system, and what that means is that your system is connected to the grid, and if you overproduce, you can send energy back to the grid. If you underproduce and need more electricity, you can draw energy from the grid. It's really nice, it's convenient. The other options are adding batteries, which do add quite a bit of cost to your system, or going completely off-grid, which would depend entirely on batteries or some sort of energy storage device. For most people, the grid-tied system or the utility interactive system is the way to go, so that's what we're going to focus on. The grid-tied system allows for net metering, which I'll talk about here in a second, and that's the reconciliation of what you use from the grid and what you send back to it. One thing to mention, if you are interested in storage or batteries, some of the incentives like the federal tax credit will allow you to incorporate batteries at the time you install the system, but if you add batteries later, they won't allow you to incorporate or receive a tax credit on the price of the batteries. So this is where I get into net metering. It's a little bit technical, but I'll take my time, and at the end we'll see if you have any questions. Net metering, as I said, is the reconciliation is the reconciliation of how much energy you draw from the grid and how much energy you give back to the grid. And one thing I want to just mention really quickly about the grid-tied system is that if the grid does go down, your system also shuts down. It's one of the slight shortfalls of the system. The reason for that is if the grid goes down and your system's producing energy and they're making repairs to the grid, they don't want you feeding energy back into the system. It's a hazard, obviously, for line workers. But the nice thing about that inverter is you still have some power available on the rare occasion that the power goes out while it's actually sunny outside. So again, the net metering, this graph represents electricity production over a calendar day, 24 hours, starts at midnight, goes to midnight. The area in yellow in the middle of the day represents your production of energy for that day. So this will be a nice sunny day. This example applies for a residential system. And the area in blue represents your consumption for the day, so how we typically use energy in our home over a day. Middle of the night, our consumption is going to be quite low. Start waking up in the morning, making breakfast, lights come on, people taking showers, all of that. So our energy consumption rises a little bit. And then through the middle of the day, most homes are low occupancy, people are at work, things like that. So the consumption drops. And then later in the evening, people come home, making dinner, watching TV, lights on, all of that. Our consumption rises, peaks later in the evening, and then drops off again as we go to bed. Likewise, the production peaks in the middle of the day when the sun is out, highest in the sky, and so I think you can see where I'm going with this. Essentially, what net metering is the balancing of the two. So if on a given day, looks like my laser pointer is dying here. On a given day, if the area in yellow exceeds the area in blue, you're going to be a net producer. So that means that on that day, you produced more energy than you used. Maybe it was a nice sunny day, middle of the summer, and you're a net producer that day. If middle of winter, maybe it's cloudy, bad weather, low production, and the area in blue exceeds the area in yellow, you're going to be a net consumer. So for net metering, what that means is if you're a net producer, you're feeding energy back to the grid. If you're a net consumer, you're using all the energy you produced that day and then pulling whatever else you need from the grid. How many of you are Ameren customers? Okay, anybody ran Tool or Eastern Illini? I think everybody was Ameren. Okay, we'll stick with Ameren. Ameren's a great solar partner. They have a really great net metering policy. Essentially, the way it works is if you're a net producer, any of that extra energy that you send back to the grid, you will receive a credit for on the following month's bill. They work like rollover minutes. So in the middle of the summer, you're a net producer in say June, July, August, maybe into September. You'll get credits and they'll build up over those months. And the nice thing is that when you go into the winter, you have that summer credit built up. Assuming your system is sized appropriately to offset your consumption, you'll have that credit built up, and that'll can carry some people through the winter, depending on how much energy you use, of course. If you're a net consumer, they'll just bill you at the normal rate. The rate at which you receive the credit is the standard retail rate for a system that's under 40 kilowatts. To give you an idea of how big 40 kilowatts is, that's quite a large system, particularly for residential. The average home uses about 12 kilowatt hours per month in Illinois, so a 10 kilowatt system would offset 100% of the average home in Illinois. So a 40 kilowatt system would be 4 times the average consumption. So most of you would be looking at under 40 kilowatts, which means any extra energy you produce will be credited at that retail rate. If it's oversized, you'll be credited at the wholesale rate or the avoided cost rate. So those credits roll over month to month. At the end of a 12-month period, they have what's called a true-up date. You have 2 options, April or October. April is the one that's recommended for solar, whereas October is the one that's recommended for wind. And at the end, so if you go solar, you choose April. In April, any credit that you have built up over the course of that year is actually wiped clean. The extra energy is essentially a gift to the community, a gift to the environment, and a gift to Ameren. So there's not a lot of incentive to really oversize your system if you're financially motivated. If you're environmentally motivated, lots of incentive. But as far as we don't recommend it for most people unless you have some foreseen increase in electric load. So you want to buy an electric vehicle, you're planning to add on to your house, things like that, maybe switching from a natural gas heating system to an electric heating system. Those would be reasons to oversize your system ahead of time. But other than that, they aren't going to send you a check at the end of the year for any extra energy you've produced. So if you're trying to go with 100% offset, they'll usually just undersize your system a little bit because there's not a lot of incentive for that extra energy production. Does anybody have any questions about net metering? Excellent. So we'll roll right along. The first step towards energy independence and energy security isn't a renewable energy system. The first step is really understanding how much energy you use. most of us have a sense of how much we pay per month for our energy bills. So we know that we pay $100 a month typically, maybe 120, 200, whatever it is, we have a sense of that. But we don't have a sense of how many kilowatt hours that actually is, or how many therms of natural gas we actually use. And so this is the part where, if you're interested in proceeding with the program, and even if you're not, I would encourage you to go home, log into your Ameren account, take a look at what your last 12 months of energy consumption were. We need to get the kilowatt hour as well understood as mile per gallon is. Most people have a good sense of how many miles per gallon is good, what the norm is these days. And if you're interested in participating in the program, it's beneficial because that's going to be one of the first questions they ask you. How much energy do you use, so we know how big of a system you need to offset your energy consumption and what the financial aspects of it are. So we really try to hammer home that understanding, and I would encourage you to go home and check that out. It's really easy to do, and they lay it out on this nice blue and white graph, or blue and white table. It's real easy. The second step, which at this point in the program we sort of encourage you to do in tandem or at the same time as the renewable energy system, is the efficiency. And that's things like upgrading to high efficient lighting, so CFLs or LEDs, replacing incandescent lighting, weatherizing your home, adding insulation, sealing windows and doors and things like that, upgrading to Energy Star appliances, installing programmable thermostats that turn off the heat when you're away. And there's really, since you're all Ameren customers, Ameren offers incentives for a lot of those measures, for adding insulation and things like that. They require you to have a home energy audit, and our partner, New Prairie Construction, is a Building Performance Institute certified partner in the Ameren Act on Energy program. So this is Ameren's Act on Energy program down here, and they can come out and do an energy audit for you, and then you can meet those requirements for getting incentives if you're interested in making changes to your building. So we encourage you to do that in tandem with the solar, because it can drive down the price of the solar system. Every dollar you spend on efficiency is worth about $3 in renewable energy. So it's if you can reduce the amount of energy you use, then you don't need as much energy produced by your solar system, and maybe you don't need as many panels or as many modules. Other things that affect the cost of your system are going to be obviously the size, how complex the system is. So if you're mounting on multiple roof faces, what type of interconnection you have, maybe how old your electrical panel is, any upgrades that would need to happen to that, or if it needs a separate connection. The pitch of the roof, as I mentioned before, if it's overly steep, they need different hardware. These are all different aspects that can affect the price of your system. So we're going to get into the incentives now. I'm going to pass it over to Shannon. She's going to talk about the financial incentives that are available, and then get into some pricing examples for you.
Okay, there really hasn't been a better time in the past to go solar in Illinois, for a number of reasons. The cost of solar has come down markedly in the last decade. And in addition, the federal tax credit, the federal incentives and the state incentives are stronger now than they've ever been, stronger and more reliable. The ones that apply to this area, in the country we have the 30% federal tax credit. And net metering, which Max just talked about, is a form of incentive, right? So for any electricity that you produce that you don't use, you get credit for that through your utility. And the Illinois Power Agency Solar Renewable Energy Credit Program is the new state incentive in 2015. That helps to offset an additional 25% of the total cost. So when you layer for a residence, layer the federal tax credit and the state incentive, the state renewable energy credit program, it works to reduce your cost by about 60% right now. It's really good. And if you're a business, you get to also take advantage of the maker's depreciation. So that, when you layer all three of those, your cost is reduced by 75 to 80% as a business. So if you're a small business in a rural area, it's another 25%. So if you can layer all of those things, small businesses in rural areas really have a chance to get their payback right away in their solar system. The USDA 25% REAP grant is a competitive USDA grant. But the others, you can take advantage of, everybody can take advantage of. For a residential homeowner, it's just simply the top 3 bullets that apply, and for a business, you can add the 4th, and in a competitive sense, add the 5th. Okay, and then all of these incentives, not only for solar, but for things like geothermal and wind, all the incentives associated with those renewable technologies are summarized at this website. It's a nationwide consortium for every state. You can find out what every state has in the way of incentives. It's this DSIREUSA.org. So a few other points of interest. Max mentioned that you don't have to own the home, but or you have to own the home, but it doesn't have to be your principal residence. One other kind of important thing, we get this question often, is, well, I do want my roof to be newer because these panels have a production warranty for 25 years. It's a long-term investment. So can I roll in the cost to reshingle my house into the cost of the solar and then take the 30% federal tax credit on the whole thing? And the answer to that is no. But if you have to add support to your roof, let's say it's the structure is poor, it's deteriorated. If you have to add support to hold the weight of the solar, that work can be included. If you have to upgrade your electrical service, that work can be included. So within reason, you can include additional costs outside of solar, but not to simply reshingle. And there's no maximum credit. That's important. There's no cap. There's no cap on the 30% federal tax credit.
You know, I'm surprised because
Year to year even.
I put in geothermal and I couldn't take that 30% for labor costs and things like that. It was strictly for the system.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
That was 2014, I guess, or I guess it was 14.
Do
The
you know
people who
But is it a
installed it,
renewable energy system, or is it just geothermal heating and cooling?
just geothermal heating and cooling.
So this is specifically to renewable energy systems, so it's a different program.
Well, that's a different program.
Yeah.
Oh, because I was going to say, geez, maybe I need to
Yeah, no, this is for renewable
communicate with
energy.
the feds again. Yeah, okay, because I wondered about that.
I didn't actually know that. That's good to know. I
Mhm.
thought geothermal was included in renewable, but no.
I don't think so. I mean,
I don't know.
That's what they
I
told
honestly
me,
don't know.
because the people who did it, they've been doing it for years. He said, here's what it is.
Okay. Okay, so I mentioned the renewable
Okay.
energy, the solar renewable energy credit program. This is the new program. This used to, Illinois used to have, and they're trying to come back with a rebate, like an upfront rebate. It was constantly oversubscribed and unreliable, and this program is strong. It's a production-based incentive. So what that means is you don't just get a rebate based on the size of your system up front. This is an incentive that pays you for every 1,000 kilowatt hours that your system produces. So has anyone heard of the Renewable Portfolio Standard in Illinois? The Renewable Portfolio Standard is Illinois' goal for greening our electricity purchases. So we're trying to the current standard is to green our electricity by 25% by 2025. That's the goal. So in an effort to do that, the Solar Renewable Energy Credit Program is one of the mechanisms they're using. So what, in a sense, this is the state is buying and so I have a solar system, so they're paying me for every 1,000 kilowatt hours of green electricity that I produce. Then they're using that, it's a virtual kind of carbon trading, if you want to think of it that way, but they're using that to green the state's portfolio. Okay, so for 5 years, I'm giving up my environmental benefits on behalf of the entire state so that we can green our electricity. Which means that even though my little 10 kilowatt system is only producing so much electricity, it's still one little piece to the overall picture of reducing our reliance on fossil fuel-based electricity, right? Because I'm purchasing less coal-fired electricity because I'm producing my own. So I'm selling those rights, those environmental benefits to the state at large for a period of 5 years. That's what this program is all about. So this is, again, a production-based incentive. So I'm going to make more than someone who only installs 5 kilowatts. But someone who installs 25 will make more than I do.
So this is everything you produce or the excess
All of it.
based on, okay,
So it's completely separate, unrelated to net metering.
okay.
It's metered
Oh.
separately. Doesn't matter how much of it you use.
How are they gonna know that? Do we need another meter?
You will be able to, as long as your system is 10 kilowatts or smaller, your inverter tracks that.
Oh, okay.
And the credit, so we use a credit bundler, an SREC bundler, and they'll be able to have guest access to your inverter readout, and they'll report it quarterly. So it's good. It's a good program. So one SREC, one green benefit, right, is the equivalent of 1,000 kilowatt hours of solar electricity produced. So if you have a 5 kilowatt system, different, kilowatts is power, right? Kilowatt hours is energy. So you have 5 kilowatts nameplate capacity producing over time kilowatt hours, okay? So 5 kilowatts of solar produces about, if it's oriented optimally, 6,300 kilowatt hours of electricity. That's the unit in which you buy electricity, right, and produce it, which is the same as 6.3 megawatt, or SRECs, or megawatt hours. Okay, you get the conversions up there? Okay. So, this program has a $185 valued SREC. So that's how the math works. 6.3 SRECs times $185 gets us to here. It's a 5-year contract. So ultimately, this is your payout. Okay, so that works against the installed cost of solar for you. The few details that are important to mention are that $5,800 comes to you over 5 years in quarterly payments, little blocks, okay? And in each payment, that's considered revenue to you, income. So you'll have to pay taxes on it, okay? So when you see this number in one of our proposals, note that that's pre-tax dollars, okay? So when you go on down the line and look at bigger systems, it makes sense that your SREC incentive is larger. The more you produce, the more the state is going to buy from you. And you will have a contract. This isn't something that's squishy. You know, you'll have a contract. This is estimated though, right? Because my 10 kilowatt system is a ground mounted system. It's oriented perfectly due south, tilted at 30 degrees. Like, you know, for every square inch of solar, I'm producing as much electricity as possible. For someone who has a southeast facing roof with a 20-degree pitch, they're not going to make 6,300 kilowatt hours. It's going to be something less. So therefore, your SREC payment will be a little bit less too. I like this type of incentive better than an upfront rebate, because someone like me who builds a perfectly optimal system gets the same dollars as a person who's producing, you know, maybe 75% of what I'm producing. So this keeps the state dollars spent in a much more efficient way. We're getting more for each dollar. Any questions on any? Yeah.
Is the number of kilowatt hours annual, or is that over the course, that's over the course of 5 years?
That's right. So
1 year.
That's 1 year.
6,300
Right.
kilowatt hours.
That's 1 year. Mm-hmm. That's right. So you can kind of do the math, right? It's about, it depends, but a pretty good roof produces anywhere from 1,200 to 1,300 kilowatt hours per kilowatt of solar, DC. Okay, that's kind of the building block. Anybody here with a small business where the REAP grant would apply? Because I can skip that otherwise. This is one of our installations in Carlinville. It's a 100-year-old barn, Angus Farm. He received the REAP grant. That's about a 10 kilowatt system, just for reference. He installed that last summer. Very proud of solar. So the other kind of important thing to mention, just for general knowledge, is that, you know, farmers are one of the most ideal clients for solar, because they can have, if they're feeding animals or drying grain, or they can have pretty high electricity usage. And out in the co-ops, that's where the cost of electricity is the highest. The co-op electric utilities are anywhere from 12 to 13, 14 cents a kilowatt hour. You in Ameren territory are paying 9.6 right now. So it's a big difference. Solar goes a lot further for someone out in the county and one of the co-ops than it does in town. I mean, it still is a great investment no matter, but often farmers just stand to benefit. So let's look at the numbers. This is a typical 5 kilowatt system, right? Just around 19 panels, 19 to 20 panels. A system this size can be viewed as offsetting about half of the electricity in a typical home. Though in the county with this program, we've seen a broad spectrum of electricity usage. People have different patterns. Some have better efficiency measures. Some have better insulated homes. It really does vary quite a bit. But for discussion purposes, let's assume that 5 kilowatts offsets about half of this home's electricity usage on average over the course of a year. The program pricing for a 5 kilowatt system, or for any system for residential, anything less than 20 kilowatts, is $3.16 per watt. Solar is priced by the watt. And that is all in cost. Installed, equipment, permitting, everything, taxes, everything. So for a 5 kilowatt system, $3.16 a watt for the program, you're looking at base cost of $15,600. That's with nothing special. It's standard, straightforward installation. Compared to what a typical cost is around here, it's really has been over $4 a watt, you can see the cost savings for just participating in the program. And then, you take off the 30% federal tax credit, take off the SRIC payments that you're going to get over the first 5 years, and you can look at the difference in net cost between in-program and out-program. And the difference in the payback, 11 years versus 7 years. And on return on your investment of 8% versus 12%. I want to make a special note of the 30% federal tax credit. I don't know that I mentioned this, but you have to have the tax liability, right, to take advantage of that. You have to owe taxes and income tax to take advantage of that, but you have 2 years to do it. So let's say you only have a couple of thousand to use up in the first year. You can apply 2,000 first year, you can apply the rest of it the next year. Residential homeowners have 2 years to apply that. Businesses have like 20, a really long time. Any questions on this one?
What's the difference between the two charts? They both say 4.94 W.
Well, the difference is it's the same system.
Oh, okay.
If you're in the program and you sign a contract by the end of May,
Okay.
you get this price. It's just the bulk purchase pricing difference to show you that this is a good opportunity, really. And essentially all this says is that you're hedging, by going solar, no matter whether it's a 50% offset system, a 25%, 100, you're hedging against rising electricity costs, right? Because for the next 25, 30, 35 years, you're producing your own at whatever percent. The rest of what you're not producing is going to continue to rise. Our models use 4% per year. Ameren received a 17% increase last year, so that varies. But that just kind of drives home what the overall end game is, and ultimately financially this is what you're doing. Hedging your bets. So this is a commercial system, flat roof, what we call ballasted solar system. It's ballast, it's installed in a different way. These are 10-degree tilt panels, and they're just weighted down by concrete blocks. There aren't any penetrations in the roof on a roof like this, which is really ideal. So it's just weighted down, and this is a 25 kilowatt system producing around 30,000 kilowatt hours per year. So we're going to look at the same cost. So for a commercial system, 20 kilowatts or larger, the cost is $277 a watt. Okay. So the same incentives come off, except there's another one here now. Commercial businesses can depreciate their equipment, and there's special makers rapid depreciation for solar, for renewable energy equipment. So when you look at all of these combined, it's an amazing drop from an already really low price to your end game price. If you can, again, if you can take advantage of the depreciation and the tax credit, it's really beneficial. You can use that tax money to benefit your cash flow, essentially is what you're doing. You're reducing your utility bills. And so for a similarly sized system, the other, a $3.25 per watt cost outside of the program, puts you at a 5-time increase net cost compared to what we're offering through this program. And you can see the difference in payback and internal rate of return on the money. No matter though, right now, you can see 5-year payback versus 4, you can see that even with our savings in the program, solar for businesses is really great right now. And you can layer on the incentives. This is another demonstration of what the utility costs in red continue to do and what your cost for producing solar electricity does over 25 years. So I'll stick around if you have questions afterward, and Max is going to finish up with the presentation.
All right, so I'm just going to wrap up really quickly. We've really tried to make the case that solar is a really good choice for a lot of reasons, financially, environmentally, socially. The goal of MREA is not just to get people to purchase solar, but to educate them about solar and proliferate the knowledge, and so that's what we really try to do with these power hours, is even if you're not part of the program, you learn something about it. My favorite one of these is it's contagious, and the reason is that when people install solar, especially in this community, your neighbors see, they start talking about it, they might ask you about it, they might ask you in a couple of weeks how it's going, or because it only takes a couple of days to install typically. They might ask you, how much it's producing, are you seeing results, and all that sort of thing, and then they start to consider it. And then they think, well, my roof is sunnier than their roof, maybe I should do it too. And then they install a bigger system, and they're, well, how much did yours produce? Well, mine produced 6 kilowatts. Well, yeah, well, mine produced 9. I got a 9 kilowatt system, and it's producing, so many thousands of kilowatt hours per month. So it's really contagious, and it really spreads, and that's my favorite thing about it. So what are the next steps? Well, if you sign up to the program, and we've got your information here, basically you'll be contacted to see if you're interested. Even if you're not, we'll send you little updates occasionally, monthly, something like that, on how the program is doing. The deadline to sign a contract to participate is May 31st. And so in order to participate, you'll need to secure financing. There's a loan program available for homeowners through Straight Up Solar. I think it's the Dividend Solar Loan Program. There's other funding sources available as well, regular personal loans and things like that. So we encourage you to secure funding if you need to, or secure financing if you need to. You'll be contacted. Start thinking about your home. Download that electricity usage, and then sign the contract and go solar. As far as learning more about solar, we encourage people to join MREA. We've got flyers about the program up here on the front, and some info about MREA and a membership discount coupon. If you do sign up, you get free online classes in renewables. There's also discounts on in-person classes. You get free admission to the Energy Fair up in Wisconsin. So if you're looking for a summer trip to take, that's a great short trip, a nice long weekend trip. A lot of people head up there for. You can sign up for that all the typical ways you can sign up for things these days, right? Phone, email, all of that. And so I'm going to wrap up. I want to say thanks to you guys for letting us host here. If you have any questions, we'll stick around. But otherwise, go solar. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
You say you have to own your home, you don't even can't have a mortgage, you just need your.
Right, you just can't be renting.
Have you had any trouble with homeowners associations?
We haven't had any trouble, and I won't say that nobody has trouble, but Illinois has a really strong solar bill of rights, basically, for homeowners, where they essentially can't say no to you. You have to take reasonable measures. You can't extend it into the street or something like that.
Yeah.
But generally they can't say no
Yeah,
to.
'cause I emailed our architecture person, and he just ignored it. So I went and looked, and it does appear they can't say no, but yeah, so thanks.
Yeah, as far as we know, there's not, and Shannon can talk about it a
Yeah,
little more.
it wouldn't hurt to email him that
Yeah.
law
Okay.
also, and just say, and obviously not in an aggressive way, but let him know that, you know, I've seen this, but I wanna work with the association, I don't wanna be contrary to my
Right.
neighbors, and if there's something that that you'd like to talk with me about, on how to do this,
That's a
then
good idea.
it kind of is good to kind of ease into that,
Yeah.
and ultimately knowing you have this big stick that you have to use it.
Yeah, okay, that's helpful.
You catch more bees with honey, right?
Yeah,
That's right.
well, right, yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, anybody? Perfect, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for talking with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.